Return to Glory podcast. Merry Christmas, or coming up soon, Merry Christmas. Hunter Zarbernicki, Austin Rose, Dakota Freetag will be joining shortly. It's bowl week. We have not said that.
Wow. What a treat.
We've never said it on this podcast. 6 years, and here we are for the first time. Nebraska playing in a bowl game.
Who did we last play in a bowl? It wasn't Tennessee, was it?
It might have been UCLA, I think, potentially.
Oh, you're right. Yep. You're right. That is what it is. Because I remember we absolutely ran it down their throat.
Yep.
Long time.
It's been a while. And especially around the holidays here, normally we're checked in. We're not really on much football talk. It's basketball season, which we'll get to that here in a little bit. Huskers play tonight against Hawaii on Monday evening in the semifinals of the Diamond Head Classic. But this year we have like a lot of stuff, I feel like. I'm not going to call it the off season, but with the transfer portal, it's a lot. And we've updated you every week. We have some now incoming players since we last spoke. And I don't know. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because I feel like we could do this every episode and it's just blah, blah, blah. And I'm not big into the portal or recruiting until I see them play. Like, that's kind of how my mind is now. It is fun to get excited about them, I guess. But that's my opinion on the portal. Like, great, add some players. We see like, oh, former 4-star. I'm like, well, that doesn't mean anything to me right now. Now, down the road, we'll see.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, it is still talent. Most of the people though that are transferring that we're getting are people who have like 4 years of eligibility or 3 years of eligibility. So we've only seen them for a year. It's not like this person who we've seen for 3 years and you're like, oh, this guy's good. And we feel good about saying that because there's actual film on him. It's not, like the 5-star defensive end from Missouri. It's like he didn't even play really last year. So you're right.
Yeah, and you don't know why. Like, we don't know anything about the schools.
Right.
We can read stuff and say, oh, well, here's why, because we read this, and this from Missouri. It doesn't, to me, add a whole lot of value, I guess. But it's fun to still talk about. It makes it busy during this time of the year. And then we're adding a bowl game this year. So it's very different than years past on the podcast. So I think last Monday we just heard of Dante Dowdell since he has signed at, was it Kentucky? I think I heard
the Wildcats.
So there goes Dowdell. I heard there's probably a lot of money offered there. That's what we're saying. Maybe true. I'm not sure. And then here's what we've gotten since last Monday. Addition of the defensive line transfer from Tennessee State, Jalen George. He's got 2 years left.
Mm-hmm.
He is a second defensive lineman after the Missouri transfer that you mentioned. And then we added a punter, Jack McAllister, and he has been at Washington the past few years. So if you watched the national championship last year, he had a 56-yard boot.
Mm-hmm.
So he will most likely be our punter next year, replacing Buschini, since Buschini is a senior. And then on Thursday, we added Isaiah Hunter, who is the Cal #1 receiver for this year. He had 40 catches for 578 yards and 5 touchdowns, leading the Golden Bears this year. He was a former 4-star. He still has 3 years left. That was a big get. I think that was one of the big targets on the offensive side of the ball that will immediately make an impact on Indata Holgerson's offense. And then defensive lineman Gabe Moore from Mississippi State. He was a 3-star recruit but didn't play. He's got 4 years left. Couple other defensive guys, Justin Rhett from Georgia, safety, 4-star recruit, 23, class 2. Didn't play much past couple of years. He has 3 years left. And then a big one from Oklahoma, and Dak's not on here to add his commentary. He told me he was not very good. But
isn't that what everyone's going to say that leaves? Hey, you know?
Dasan McCullough from Oklahoma, linebacker, sounds like he might be playing some safety for us. He had 17 tackles this last season, and he has 1 year left as well. He was a freshman All-American in 22-23. Probably will replace Isaac Gifford. I'm in the Rover. And then quarterback. We got a quarterback. And the headline I saw when I saw this was talented. I'm like, great.
We'll never see him touch the ball, hopefully.
Purdue's third stringer, Marcos Davila. Redshirted during his freshman year. He's got 4 years left. Coming from Midland, Texas, top 50 recruit in last year's class. He probably will be Dylan's backup. Like you said, hopefully never
see him play.
See him. But I just laughed. The headline was added a talented quarterback. I'm like, man, this guy must be talented, backing up Purdue's 2 quarterbacks ahead of him.
Yeah. And yeah, I know exactly. Yeah. Not that Purdue had a great passing game this year, but you know, he was really good. He backed up the backup. I mean, that's important to have that kind of depth on such a pass-heavy offense traditionally. Yikes. He'll be fine. Like I said, hopefully we never see him. Glad we have him. Hopefully we never see him.
It's just a lot of new names that we're going to continue to hear, not just now, but continued on when the portal opens back up. Or I'm not even sure when this period is. I know it shuts down for a little bit and then opens back up. So we're getting guys now is what I think is the good news. Again, don't know what they're going to be like, but you hear the name, you know where they're coming from. I think just like Nebraska basketball every year, and we've seen this the past 4 or 5 years where we're just like, oh, don't know who this guy is. Let's watch him.
Right.
It takes a few games to get to know him. That's what football is going to be more like. It really is. It's just the reality of it. And it's fun to see the names. It's fun to see what pieces we can put together. I think one of the strengths, like as we talked about, of this coaching staff and now adding Dana is potentially selling these players and the NIL funds that we have in Nebraska to get some top-notch recruits here, even though we have not been really producing on the field. And one of the Husker Online podcasts recently just talked about how, there's still hype. There's still fans going to games. There's still everybody wanting Nebraska to be back now. That's why we can still land some of these guys from these big schools. I think that time is limited in the next 10 to 15 years. It's not always going to be like this if we don't flip a switch.
10 to 15.
We talked about that.
10 to 15 might even be long. I'm curious because for me, this is definitely how I feel. But when you like this last season, do you feel differently about the players that transfer in? Like when you're watching them, you're like, yeah, I hope they do well. But do you feel different about them?
I don't know. It's strange, right? I don't really think of them, I guess, as same level as the recruits to say, but at the same time, it's like they're still now your team for this year, so you want them to produce. But I agree. Like Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair, I wasn't like
you just didn't. I don't know how to describe it, but like you're like, I'm happy that they're doing well, but like when Barney's going off, you're like, man, that guy's or even in the running back room, it's like, man, I really like what Evan Johnson's doing, but even though Dowdell's doing really well, it's just I don't know if it's some weird,
and maybe a little bit subconsciously as a product of the youth, and you want young guys to do well because they're going to be here longer. Like Nair and Banks, like I just thought they were one hit wonders. Like if they work, great. If they don't, like they're only going to be here for a year, which is. But
I felt that way about Ben Scott. Like I was like, man, he's a good center, but there's still like this bit of like, yeah, he came here. Like like he. I don't want to. I'm trying to figure out how can I phrase this, but it feels like a transplant. It's like you're not from here. That's not how to describe it. Jack, are you
What's
buzzed
up?
right now?
What'd you say?
Drinking?
What'd you say?
I just want to know if you were drinking.
Nope.
Oh, all right.
I
We
have
just-
one.
Okay. We just got done talking about how we were super excited about the Oklahoma transfer and how we think he's going to change our defense.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know anything about him. I texted Hunter. He sucks. I really don't know anything about that guy.
You don't know anything because you're not a fan. You don't actually know the players. So you can't even deny it at this point.
I know Oklahoma got a heck of a transfer QB.
That's true.
John Mature.
Apparently, Baker Mayfield sold them on that one.
Yep, he did. He went and talked him into it. So they're back.
There you go.
You guys didn't tell me about the Christmas hats tonight.
Well, it wasn't planned. We just happened to both have them on.
And where's yours?
Actually, I lost it. I need to go find it.
Aren't you the only one at a Christmas party right now too?
No, we're not. It's not a party.
Oh, just to get together.
Yep, just to get together.
I hate you. All right, Nebraska, Boston College, the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Yankee Stadium is Saturday, December 28th. I saw the line move again. It's up to 3.5. It's hard to know with players playing. The only ones right now, I think, from Nebraska's standpoint that we haven't heard anything, but that we're still up in the air on is how much is Ty and Nash going to play. We would assume they're going to play the whole game. They're both most likely going to get drafted or at least be looked at by NFL teams. And, there's obvious people that opt out. I think they're going to play. I just don't see how they're going to sit there in the sideline and watch this bowl
game. Not playing a bowl game their entire career. Yeah, no way.
So I think they're going to play. Other than that, I think we know who's playing. From our depth chart standpoint, we know Heinert got moved to tight end. So our quarterback room now, Jalen Gramsted's the number 2 backing up Dylan Raiola. We know the running back room is going to be Emmett and Ramir. Hopefully Ramir can get on the field. It sounds like he can. And then Quentin Ives is going to probably get some heavy workload there as well. Wide receiver room doesn't look much different from the year. Offensive line doesn't look much different. On the defensive side, we got some change of names, but still a lot of guys that played a lot of snaps this year. It's not like all the guys that left, they played every snap of every game. So, you're going to hear a lot of the same names. It's just that the depth behind them. If we still sub and rotate as much as we have, you're going to see some guys like Vincent Shavers and Willis McGahee, Bly Hill on the outside, Ramir Stewart, Mario Buford. Those guys are going to get some chances to show what they can do on the defensive side of the ball. On the defensive end side, Cameron Lenhart and Riley Van Poppel, like those guys are going to play a lot of minutes on Saturday. And I think those are guys that I don't feel like it's going to be a huge step off, but we're going to find out against Boston College, who they're not the flashiest of offenses, but they're more run heavy. They would fit in pretty well with the Big Ten based on the style that they run.
Well, current head coach, former Big Ten head coach, Boston College. But yeah, I think our depth chart seems fine. I agree. You look on the defensive side, there's no surprises. What is the biggest surprise on the depth chart that doesn't seem like it could be a regular season game? Maybe just a couple of the redshirt freshmen popping up as second stringers.
Yep. That's what it is.
Yeah. Which honestly, I'm more excited to see some of those guys. Obviously I want to win the bowl game, but it'd be, I can kind of see what Grant Bricks looks like. He was, a highly touted offensive line recruit. What's he look like after a year of sitting?
A lot about these bowl games is seeing what you got coming in next year too. The good part about it is, like you said, Boston College does not have a high-flying offense at all. And who isn't playing quarterback for them because Castellanos transferred.
It's the guy who started the last couple games for them.
You didn't do your research for the podcast, did you, Dak?
I did not. I did not. I thought the spread. That's all I looked at. Which is,
Grayson
okay.
James will be starting quarterback for him. He's thrown for about 1,000 yards on the year, 64% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 2 picks. So he's only started the past couple of games. He's not the running threat that Thomas Castellanos was when he was starting at quarterback, but they do have 4 guys that have all rushed for over 200 yards at running back. They've rotated these guys a lot. The leader is Kai Robichek. He's rushed for 700 yards in the year, 10 touchdowns. He's going to be the guy to key in on the defensive side of the ball. But they do. They want to establish the run early, and it's going to be led by Robichek there at the running back position. Grayson James is going to be your typical Big Ten quarterback. He's not going to be flashy, but our defenses make these guys look a lot better than they typically are. Their offense scores 29.3 points a game. That ranks them about right smack dab in the middle, 60th in the country. They pass for 191 yards, 106th, and then 176 rushing yards per game, which puts them at 47th. So that gives you a high-level overview of what they want to do on offense. But it's a bowl game. I feel like we've had an eternity to prepare for a game like this. I guess we don't really know because we've never been in a game like this. But it just feels like it's been a long time without playing a game. And you're going to see wrinkles and different things that both teams are going to try to do.
I just don't know how good of a team Boston College was this year. I mean, they're 7-5, but you look at it's like they beat Florida State, but this is before we knew Florida State sucked.
They hung with Missouri.
They almost beat Missouri. Yeah, like they were right there against Missouri. They beat Michigan State, which, I mean, Big Ten team, not that they were good. Lost
SMU they hung with.
Yeah, they hung with SMU, only lost by 10. Beat North Carolina, beat Pitt, beat Syracuse. Like, those aren't bad wins. But
so they'll be a really good test here. I can't believe that line is moving in that direction. I figured it moved down because it was moving down. Because it started out 4.5 when the bowl game first got announced, I think.
That's
and then it dropped. Then dropped down to 2.5. I thought it was gonna keep on moving towards Boston College, but
it feels high.
The only loss that they had to a team that didn't make a bowl game was to Virginia. So their schedule, it's not like it's the flashiest, but they do have some decent wins there as well. It let's be real, you get what you're going to get when you're 6-6 and you're 7-5. Like, this is a bowl game you get. 2 teams never played each other from Power 5 conferences. You know, first year head coach Bill O'Brien, you mentioned, a guy that we looked at as a candidate before
we were
hired
excited about. We wanted him.
We were excited about, and I've always liked Bill O'Brien teams and you know, his offenses that he coached at Alabama. I think he's a tough-minded, has the right style of a football coach that I tend to agree with. So it's going to be. I don't expect this game to be a blowout in either way. I actually expect it to be kind of a low-scoring, grind-it game for the most part.
Do we know what the weather's supposed to be like?
I heard rain. I heard some rain in the
too.
forecast.
I didn't know if it changed.
So, not sure that benefits anybody.
It says 39 and cloudy right now.
Okay.
So nothing too crazy, but you can get in right now. $45.
$45. Get in the stadium.
Do you think there'll be a lot of Husker fans going to this? I would imagine, because it's been so long, but
it's also not like a place that old people want to go to.
No,
I think there's a lot of Husker fans in New York. I think just from old regime, there's just probably a good fair chunk.
I don't think Boston College is up the road. I don't think they're going to bring that many people there, though. Like, it'll be probably 80-20 Husker fans there.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll be curious who shows up. I think there will be a lot just because we haven't been in a while. And New York City is a place that you can make a extra few days in. I know, like, the team went out early and to get prepared. I think they're practicing in Central Park today, which is kind of cool. I know there's going to be a lot of things for fans to do that want to go out there. So I would expect there to be some things. I know people are complaining about the weather, but it's not like it's that much different than what we're used to in the Midwest.
Right. You just don't want to burn vacation in December to go to a colder place.
Flipping over other side of the ball, Boston College, very average defensively too, right in the middle on all of their passing and rushing points. The big thing to note here is Donovan Ezraku. He's the leading sack player in the country, has the most sacks in the country of any other player. He's their leading tackler as well with 80 total tackles. He is not playing to prepare for the NFL.
Which is a relief. ACC Defensive Player of the Year, not playing? Great. Thank you.
Yes, like we'll take it.
Yeah.
More than half their sacks, yeah.
I mean, he has like almost, he has half of their sacks. You're right.
I say the next highest guy in sacks is Quintavious Hutchins with 3.5. So, like, that's a big breath of air when it comes to what we're going to do on offense. A lot of talk with Dana this week and last week just about the future, mainly with the transfer portal. I'll be curious with now more weeks of practice. We're not all game week. And Dana mentioned it. Like, we had 9 basically camp type practices before we had to get to game week. And he said that is not anything he's used to either. When you play in a bowl game, normally you're out recruiting, you're on the road. It doesn't happen as much anymore with the portal, and now obviously being able to do everything virtually. So he's had a lot more time now to install some of the things that he probably sees that'll be good for this game, but also for the future. And he said it. He doesn't want to go 4 or 5 wide. I think that kind of tells, and some of that might be playing to the fans' emotions too. But I think that's also talking about what style and personnel identity that he wants to show as an offensive coordinator and with Dylan. I'll say this with Dylan. He needs to be more mobile, at least a little bit, and probably lose a little weight. And I'm sure we'll hear it come August that he's looking better and slimmer and able to move. Like, that's what'll happen. But I think that's probably a direction that we need to go. Maybe we'll see some in this game. Maybe we won't. But I think that's one big enhancement that needs to be made before next year.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I feel like there are other enhancements to be made before then, but I guess I don't know if the mobility is it's definitely a wrinkle. I understand what you're saying, and I agreed we needed that. For certain games, I don't know if this is one of those games that
I'm not saying run for 10 times a game. I'm just saying
right.
In the pocket to be able to be elusive a little bit. Like,
make the defense worry about it a little bit.
Yep.
Last thing on the offense, and actually we can do this now before we do our score predictions. Any Christmas wish list gifts for the Huskers?
Give me a good big old left tackle, man.
That's on top of my list is offensive lineman. It does frustrate me because until Rule said it the other day, no one was talking about the offensive lineman, how we need to get now he said everybody's like, yeah, that's right. We need an offensive lineman. That's still the most important position on the field in my mind. Maybe outside of quarterback, but I still think we've seen you have a good quarterback. If your offensive line is shitty, it ain't gonna be good. So let's find a couple of offensive linemen in the portal. Let's pay them some dollars and get them here. And they're not as prevalent
in the transfer. I don't know if that's just the type of individual who's an offensive lineman, but there's just not a lot of big name offensive linemen who enter the portal. I don't know if that's a factor of they work in a line. So it's a team of 5, so you feel a little more connected to your team and your development and your coach. I don't know. That's an observation I was going to mention too. It's just,
and when there is a really good one that comes out, everybody goes after him. It's you just won't find a solid offensive lineman that often in the portal that will come to, besides Bama, Georgia, and all those schools. It's hard to find. recruiting is where you get your offensive lineman more.
And that's what Rule was saying. He said the best way to get an offensive lineman is you want to get them, redshirt them a year, and then by year 3 have them starting.
Which is, do you guys think in the portal why it's harder? It's because those linemen get developed with the same coaches and they just want to stay there since they've been a freshman, or why isn't there not many of them leaving?
I mean, there aren't a ton of offensive linemen that get a few snaps. You know, like your starters start. You don't really rotate your offensive linemen during a game like you do the defensive line. So like you're not seeing any like, oh, this guy showed some flashes, unless if someone gets hurt. I don't know.
I think it's a lot of what you said, Austin, the mindset, the type of players that offensive linemen are. I just think they're loyal. They're very just the good ones, you know, they're tough minded. They want to, and also offensive linemen, you don't talk about development as far as your body and your physique. When you get to college, like these kids are still growing by the time they get to college. And that's why you'll see players put on so much muscle and change their bodies from when they come in as freshmen to when they leave as seniors. When you're skill players, a lot of times, I think it's a very different type of sculpting your body for that position. I don't think you're wanting, obviously, to put on 20 pounds as a wide receiver. Whereas offensive linemen, you see guys that are built, their mindset's built more for the long-term process of, this is what we're doing with you. You're coming in as a freshman, sophomore. By the time you're a junior, this is when you're going to be at your peak.
Right.
I think that's kind of the message.
You're in the program at that point. Like you're like, I've committed to this program. Like if I stop now, I might mess up my whole trajectory.
That's my thought on it. When you're a receiver, you're just like, well, I'm going to get used. If I don't get used, I'm going to get pissed and I'm going to leave.
Right. Jacory's probably going to look pretty similar physically his senior year as he is this year. He might be a little taller and a little bit thicker, but it's going to be pretty close.
Isn't that one more thing the Huskies really need is a big wide receiver, I feel like a guy like possession wide receiver, basically. I feel like there's just not that much height on the wide receiver depth chart.
And that's what we talked about this before you got on, Dak, because you were late and couldn't figure out how to get here on time. With some of the receivers that we're getting, the Hunter kid, and there's another one that coming from Kentucky that we think we're potentially the top target for. Dane Key, I think is his name.
Yep.
So I think those are two guys that, you know, will hopefully help impact that room. But I think there's still a lot of guys there that are going to still help us, young guys. I mean, you want to look at Dak's guy, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda's gone.
He's probably come back. He got 5 more years left.
But I mean, we're going to get guys like, Jalen Lloyd's coming back to, someone that didn't see a lot of snaps potentially. And we got Alex Bullock. It feels like he's been here forever, but he's still around. Not that we want him starting, but I agree. Getting a couple of playmakers, guys that we can get excited for there. That'll help.
Well, you thought you had that Nair this year, and that didn't work out. I thought it was gonna be a lot better than he did. He was okay,
they were good,
not over the top.
Yeah,
but that's what you thought he would be like, and he was not.
I just don't think he was used properly the first 9 games of the year.
And then he had a little drop at Iowa that hurt a little bit, but
yeah.
Score predictions. Before we do that, little trivia question. Nebraska's played in 53 bowl games in its history. What is our bowl game record?
We got to be like 39 and 14. Does that add up? Yeah.
Dax is not going to add up to 53.
35 and 1. Okay, what is 35? Nope. Give me 53.
Keep going. Nope, you got it.
35 and 28.
Close.
You're about 10 off.
35-18.
There you go. My guess would have been around there too. We are 26-27.
Wow.
We are sub 500. I would not have thought that. Another fun note is last time we played in a bowl game in New York City, 1962 in the Gotham Bowl.
That's a cool bowl name.
Yeah, see, they messed up. That's what this one should be called. What was the last bowl game the Huskers were in? I can't even remember what it was.
Music
We were
City?
saying it was UCLA.
Was it Music City Bowl in Nashville?
UCLA?
Yep, I think so.
For some reason, I was thinking Georgia, wasn't it?
We played Tennessee at some point and Georgia.
Guys, this is bad that we can't even figure this out. It was Tennessee in the 2016 Music City Bowl we lost 38-24. In 2015 is when we played UCLA in the Foster Farms Bowl. That was our last.
Okay, yeah, that's
so losing to Rocky Top back in 2016. Score predictions for the game.
Spread's 3.5. Don't take it. Don't take Nebraska, I guess. I'm going to go 24-21 Nebraska. Oh, boy. I don't like that, though. It is worth pointing out that Boston College has only attempted 4 field goals the entire season. That's how bad they're kicking.
Really? They just don't trust it, or they just
apparently it's a bad kicking unit is what
okay.
I've heard both teams struggle with the kicking game. That being said, we lose on a walk-off field goal 17-16.
I've got to go high scoring, right? At the end of the year. I've done every other game.
It's very possible. Bill O'Brien could put together a good game plan and kill us.
Yeah, I'd be more worried if Castellanos was the quarterback, but screw it. I'll go 38-31 Huskers. Every other game I've been off by 50 points, so might as well keep going.
Dak, before we move on, I'll give you a little bit of time for Oklahoma's game against Navy that you probably know nothing about.
Well, they're favored by 3 right now.
Great, so you know the spread, just like the Nebraska game.
Bunch of transfers. We are playing our freshman quarterback. I like to see what he looks like because the first game he played I thought he was awesome. They came in against South Carolina through 3 straight pick sixes, and that was the end of him. Never saw him since. But yeah, you always are worried about playing triple option. The good part is though you get 2 or 3 weeks to prepare for it. So I think take Oklahoma spread on that 38-20 Oklahoma. And Navy's beat down after that loss to Army. I'm surprised. I'm surprised the freshman quarterback's staying though. With bringing in transfer, maybe I'll go to Nebraska.
Any thoughts, comments from the week 1 of the college football playoff? 4 blowouts. That's been the talk of the town. But people were, I guess, hoping that maybe that last game would be closer, and it wasn't. Dak, what is your just weekend reaction to the first round of the college football playoff in general?
Well, I did end up taking every single underdog. Not even close on any of those. The one I was most confident in was Tennessee, and that was the worst one yet. So I lost all 3 of them, and then going into Tennessee, I'm like, guys, this is the one, and it just was worse. That was, I don't know. They all were ass kickings, and I don't know. Do you think home field had a lot to do with it, or just those teams are just that much better than the?
What do you think?
I think the turnovers had a lot to do in the SMU game. They're moving the ball on Penn State quite a bit, but they turned over way too much. Tennessee, I just don't think they're that good, honestly. Their offense is a disaster, and I should know that going into it. They were not. Their offense has not been great besides when they play nobody. So I don't know. I think Ohio State has already come out and kill somebody after the Michigan loss, which is either the way I thought it was going to go. Is either they were going to come out like that or just completely give up on the year. Then the other two, Indiana, I think was turnovers too was the problem, and then Clemson, Texas. So I think Texas is just better than Clemson.
So you don't think it was home field advantage?
No.
I mean, the better teams won. I wasn't shocked because 12 teams is just a lot of teams. Like, we've only been having 4. Is it that surprising that after the top 8 there's a drop off in talent? I didn't think so. I think we all kind of thought this year had a little bit more parity, but I mean, outside of what other team do you think would have been consistently done well against any of those other teams?
That's my big thing. What's the overall goal of the playoff, right?
Right.
What's the goal? What is it? It's to make sure the best team wins the national championship. That is what you want from whatever format you're getting. I don't care if that means adding more games at the beginning of it. Who cares? I think those teams deserve a shot, right? Give SMU a shot. Give Clemson a shot for winning.
They earned it through the regular season, and that is their shot. They got blown out. We move on. Next week, there'll be better games. All 4 games will be better games.
Well, I was listening to a podcast, and they were saying, would you rather, because people are complaining about how crappy the games were, would you rather them play that playoff game or them SMU goes to the Peach Bowl? Give them a shot to play it out.
I saw it was the first time that Clemson hasn't made a bowl game in so many years or something. I thought that was kind of funny because they're technically not counting it a bowl game.
Bowl game streaks dead.
Which I thought they were the one that hung in the most out of all those 4 games.
Yeah, I mean they tried.
It would have been hilarious if Nebraska was a top 12 seed and we didn't make it to a bowl game and extended our bowl game drought just to lose in the 12-5 matchup. That would have been ideal.
I think it's good for college football. I think the home crowds, the environments were just awesome.
Yep.
You had 4 stadiums. We talked about this last week. I mean, you can't get a whole lot better than that as far as home games. And yeah, the better teams won, and they proved that they won. I think people could have doubted all 4 of those teams in some sense. Dak doubted all 4 of them. So just them going out there and saying, nope, we're one of the top 8. Now, where it gets maybe a little bit hairy and people are a little bit upset is now with the seeding and how it worked out with 1 through 4, a team like Ohio or Oregon now has to play Ohio State versus playing somebody else, which for this year, you know what? It is what it is.
But you say that, and Ohio State lost to Michigan. They almost got beat by Nebraska. Ohio State looks beatable.
Correct. And you're saying now that, well, if you're Oregon, you'd rather play who? I guess. I mean, out of any of those
Boise
teams,
State.
You're going to say Arizona State or Boise State, who are both
played
heavy
Boise
underdogs.
State. They only beat Boise State by 3. So
exactly right.
It's not you hear all these Oregon fans complaining that they should be playing Boise State. They've already played it, and they play them at home, 3-point game. It's not like it's that much different.
So I do think it's going to change. Maybe not next year, but the year after or soon. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I did like this concept though, and the NFL kind of does something like this, but not quite. Take these 8 teams now. Still give the buys to the same team you gave buys to, but now reseed it 1 through 8. Now take your playoff rankings and reseed it 1 through 8. You still got to buy if you won Arizona State, Boise State. Congrats, but now reseed it. And now it's an 8-team bracket, and you're going from here. I kind of like that idea, but again, it's not like it makes it to me any less intriguing, right? It just
win your games. If you want to be a championship, win your games.
Yeah.
I just hope that they don't learn the wrong lesson and be like, you're right, we should have put Alabama in. SMU, it should have been Alabama.
Oh, we're gonna hear that though. I
Oh
think
no,
that
we've heard
already
it.
heard it.
Oh my god, freaking!
Don't lose that Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But there's one more. So the 14 playoff.
Yep.
It's not like those games are great either. You guys remember how many blowouts have been?
Yep.
There's been like a handful of good games out of the 14 playoff.
You're right, and I think in past years we have had I'm gonna say an elite team, but a great team.
Yeah.
You know that they have been up there, but like this year, I don't know that if it was a 14 playoff, we would have gotten any blowouts. But yeah, you're right as far as what it has been historically. It's just funny now. I think instead of there being one or two like teams that could win it in previous years, now there's like 8, and I think we probably got the 8. Maybe not even 8, 7 or 6.
Yeah.
But I think we got those now where we're at in the 12-team playoff bracket.
I mean, Oklahoma LSU is one of the best games ever played, right?
Mm-hmm. Nebraska volleyball.
Ugh. Heartbreaker.
It hurt. Reverse swept by Penn State on Thursday. Then Penn State went on to beat Louisville, who had their best player banged up and out on Sunday. I don't know. It did hurt. It sucked. It's hard. It's hard to point fingers or say, be mad at anything, but because we made another Final Four, just listen to pregame podcasts. It's like, ho hum, Nebraska, another Final Four. But man, it'd be nice to win a couple more now that we're here. And it's not a lack of talent. When I still hate talking about recruits and the stars, especially in a sport like volleyball that gets a lot less coverage. But we do. We've had the highest rating recruiting class for how many years in a row now. But yet we still don't win a national title, but we're still competing for one every year. It'd just be nice to get one done. And bring this up with John Cook, and he's one of the greatest ever to do it, if not the greatest volleyball coach in college volleyball. And Sam McEwen had an interesting comment and take that just got blown out of everywhere, and basically said, well, yeah, when you have all that talent and you sit on a chair,
you don't have to do anything. The girls are doing all the work or something like that.
That was a high level comment. And I bring this up just because of the fact that I have a couple of friends and people that strongly agree with this take. There's also people that throw it under the water and just think it's absurd. I'm not there. I'm not on either end of it. I'm in the middle. But just wanted to hear your guys' reactions to that. And I guess the end of the volleyball season, not winning another national title, which, like you said, heartbroken, but didn't get it done again. Like where your heads are at or thoughts are in Nebraska volleyball.
Jack, let's go with you. Yours is going to be pretty quick, I imagine.
That's just an insane take. I mean, you got to – there's no way that he just sits there and does nothing. Like, no game plan, no nothing. Just sits there and claps. Like, like the best coach of all time, and you're gonna say that's what he does? I can't believe people that agree with that. Like, he obviously has to drop game plans, do scouting, all this stuff, and plus get the recruits, which is what he's kind of saying. But yeah, I think that's one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard in my life.
I think so.
On the game, nothing.
Yeah, when I first heard it, I thought it was taken because I read the title and I was like, that's clearly taken out of context. Like, there's no way Sam came out and said that. Definitely listen to it. He not only he like triples down on it.
Uh-huh.
And that means like, no, like, are you sure? Like, you really don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to do this. And he's like, no. And I think it's a bad take. I think one. What the fuck, Sam? We've had Scott Frost as a freaking head coach, and you said jack shit about that guy. And the volleyball coach loses to the Final Four, and you're like, that guy's not a good coach. Dude, what the hell? Like, be a reporter for all the sports, okay?
He said that before the Final Four, though, didn't he?
It might have been. Yeah, you're right.
like it wasn't after the loss; it was going into the Final Four
Agreed,
game. Like
yep.
it wasn't.
Yeah, it's like, okay, dude, like, piss off. Two, I think you're undervaluing the structure that Cook puts into the program and his coaching staff, and yes, the game plan, and yes, he does have a lot of talent, and yes, but did anyone ever be like, man, Saban's not a good coach because he has a bunch of 5-star players on his team? No, because that's freaking insane. Even though you have your coordinators probably doing most of the work anyways. I mean, that's kind of the gist of coaching is at the head coach level, you're more than just X's and O's. Bad take, tough loss. You feel like you had it locked up when we were up 2-0. You really did. It's like,
Yep.
all right.
I was
We're
writing
low.
it off. I did. I wrote it off in my head already. I'm like, it's over.
Over. I agree. I had the same thought, which is good to have. I agree it'd be nice to win another one, but it's hard. I mean, single elimination tournaments, it's just a lot of games, and I understand it's difficult. And we've lost our last 3 title games and haven't won since 2017. So I mean, that's been 7 years, but 7 years between national titles is not. I mean, it's not unheard of, especially when we're competitive in all of them. But yeah, it'd be nice to win one. And this was the team you felt like we could do it. I think that's why it stings the most. It wasn't like we overachieved this year. It's like our team's fucking good. Lexi Rodriguez is a senior, and I just really wanted it, and we didn't get it.
So here's the negative, pessimistic Sam McEwen type people. What they would say is that we did have all the talent, and we've had very talented teams, and this maybe was one of the most talented teams when you want to look at what we had. Have also laughed and heard that, the most unsafe spot to be is a starter for Nebraska volleyball. Because think about some of these players that come in and it is. We bring in talent year after year in these
There's
freshmen
only
and sophomores. Like
6
Lindsey Krause didn't play a single play at all. So it is. We do have so much talent, and that's where you say, well, man, if we have the number 1 recruiting class for how many years in a row, but yet we can't win one, what does that say? Like, what does that say about John Cook? What does that say about the program? I get that side of it, but here's the thing. Just because you have the number 1 recruiting class doesn't guarantee a national title.
Right.
And I've said that for years. I guess what else could you want? Yes, I agree. We should maybe win a couple. And you win this year, you're probably feeling okay. Alabama, like you mentioned before, Austin, had the number 1 recruiting class. And I looked this up a year ago because people were making these same kind of comments. And I'm like, okay, Alabama had the number 1 recruiting class, or number 1 or 2 for 12 years in a row. And they ended up with, I believe, 3 national titles from 08 to 19. It was something like that.
That's in a system where you don't have to win a tournament. That is you've been selected to play in a national title game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a comparison there where you're like, okay, yeah, I get Alabama's call it a hit record, winning a national title record. Maybe it was 4 national titles. I don't remember the exact stat. Is a little higher than what Nebraska's hit record for winning national titles. It is. And so, yeah, you could argue we should be winning more. That's fair. That's a fair statement that we probably should be.
We've had 6 in 24 years. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know the exact stat.
So, I mean, that's almost the exact same hit record.
So I get that with talented teams, you want to say that, but at the same time, that's not a maybe it is an in-game coaching thing. I don't know, but as far as John Cook and the comments made about that, this is the extent I'm agreeing with Sam. Volleyball, in-game coaching and scheming, and I don't know much about volleyball, I can't imagine is as intricate and in-depth as the sports that more common sports we talk about, basketball, football. Now, baseball, I don't know. Maybe
you're not changing things up on a play-by-play. You are in a system.
Right. It's a very different style of in-game coaching. It's a very different level of adjustments when it comes to the sport, of substitutions. It is different. I don't think it is as much as these other sports. So to that point, yeah, Sam maybe is a little bit right, where you do sit on a chair a lot of times because you're not actively adjusting, but it's not like it. It's not the extreme that he made it sound like, and that was the impression it came off of. It's not that extreme. At the same time, too, behind the scenes, and you guys have both touched on it, your recruiting is a product of the program and the head coach. Some people say the assistant coaches do all the work for John Cook. Maybe they do, but it's John Cook that's the one in charge and assigning and hiring these assistant coaches, keeping them here, keeping them a part of the culture, the players respecting these assistant coaches, and it all stems to the entire word you said, Austin, system, entire culture. That's where, as far as one of the greatest coaches of all time, that's where that all stems from. In-game coaching, I get it. I don't know if there's a lot to do when you get to a game. There is definitely scheming, but you're not adjusting constantly in volleyball. At least from my knowledge, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're just implementing different systems to counteract their current system, but you aren't like, hey, you need to do this. It's like, hey, we're going to do this, and you all know what to do because you're smart, talented volleyball players.
So then you say it comes down to a mindset. It comes down to the toughness or whatever. And I will say the 5th set against Penn State, we did not look good. Like, we looked bad. And so I guess could you say, well, that falls on coaching? Yeah, you could. You definitely could. You're also playing another team that's very talented and also was like people were saying, well, we have 4 All-Americans. Yep. Guess who else had 4 All-Americans? Penn State or Pittsburgh did. Penn State had 3. So it's not like we're playing BOGO teams. They're all the 1 seeds. Penn State also has a coach that's fighting, for cancer. Like there's a lot. The other teams have stuff too, and you're playing another damn good volleyball team. Yeah, maybe we had the number 1 recruiting class last year, but Penn State still had a top 10 recruiting class. Like that's,
and people are always like, man, recruiting grades are kind of BS. Like, I mean, that's a pretty,
and that is what I think too. It is a I've always, but it's just funny to hear everybody's reactions about volleyball. And I think when it comes to volleyball in this state, being a girls basketball coach, volleyball has a very negative impact for multiple reasons. So if I separate my mind from the girls basketball standpoint and just look at it from a Husker fan standpoint, it's different. But I do think everything that goes on with club volleyball and volleyball in the state, it hurts basketball, and we're seeing it in numbers. That part of me gets me a little bit less discouraged, or not saying I ever hope for us to lose, but it's like, man, like all this momentum that Husker volleyball gets, you're drawing girls away from basketball. So I have a little personal bias there when it comes to that. But as far as just Husker sports in general and being a fan of that, you can't argue with the success that they've had year in and year out.
Sometimes Nebraska media, man, we had Scott Frost, and all the stories, any reporting from Sam that was any negative stuff, no, we got nothing. It's like, everything's okay. We could improve this. But boy, John Cook, that guy, it didn't need to be said. And when you have an opportunity to like clarify, and I agree, like in game, it looks like he's not doing a whole lot. But when you have an opportunity to clarify, be like, yes, I'm sure he's doing a lot behind the scenes. He's like, nah, he just kept doubling down. It's like, you are just a freaking idiot.
I don't know a lick about volleyball, but this is what it reminds me of. John Calipari in basketball would get all these 5 stars on his team, and it's just like volleyball. It's a winner go home situation for the tournaments. And he won a couple titles with them too, but he would always fail out at the end. And I guess he got fired for it, but
he made
that's what it reminds me of. Having all this talent just coming up short.
Yeah, that's true. Calipari did not make it as far as John Cook did, and I don't think he have the same resume. Yeah.
I don't get how you can complain about going to the Final Four either. Like, you fire him, we're going to get this better right now. Like,
I don't think anybody really is saying fire him, but
why say that? Like, as a medium, it's because
it's not even constructive. Like, if you were like actually upset at something he was doing that you felt was negatively impacting the program, you are more like, but that was just a poor criticism.
Yeah, I'm curious if anything will come out of it. I haven't heard any reaction to it from the actual team. I know there's social media reaction to saying that Sam should get fired for this and yada yada yada.
No, but I mean, you got to be smarter than that.
No.
Yeah,
You just like what a dumb take for in a volleyball state. What a dumb take for someone
The
who's supposed to
tripling
be covering
downs is what
sport.
did it. Tripling downs did because I was like, maybe he didn't mean what he actually. No, he 100%
Yeah,
believes what he
it-
said.
all right, last topic here, Nebraska basketball. Doing well, playing well.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
play Hawaii here in a couple hours, tip off from Honolulu. If we win, we play the winner of, I believe it's Oakland and Oregon State. And then if we lose, we play the loser of that. We played Murray State last night, and I believe it was up 22-4 at one point early on. Defensively, played very, very well. Won the game 66-49. Low scoring. We did have a lot of turnovers, but Connor Arcesian hits 5 threes. Andrew Morgan looks very, very good in the post against the undersized Murray State team, and we get out of there with about a 20-point win. So 2 more non-conference games. Well, I guess a third against Southern University here next week. But, I think if you come out with wins in all these games, you're sitting pretty good here heading into conference play. Somebody asked me the other day, what does Nebraska need to do from here on till the end to make the NCAA tournament? And I said,
Go 500.
First thing is get out of here, finish the non-conference undefeated. But I don't think Oregon State's a gimme.
No.
And I don't think Hawaii's a gimme tonight. And Oakland either. So I think there's still 2 tough games here that we got to finish out. And then I agree, go 500 in the Big Ten and you're sitting good with the non-conference schedule. You slip up one of these, I think you got to maybe prove yourself a little more in the Big Ten. But I think we're sitting in a good spot right now with this team that we really didn't know and still are figuring out the different pieces and what works, what's not. What's been encouraging for me is how we defend, and 2, how multiple we can be on offense. And that second part, the first part I kind of thought we'd be pretty solid at. The second part was very concerning early on in the year. We've shown to have multiple guys be able to be the bucket getters. And I think that's very important when we get to Big Ten play. And even when Andrew Morgan can shine in a couple of games, I think that's huge for how teams are going to defend us and scout us. And Connor Arcesian shooting the ball well, that was also one thing we didn't know how that would end up. So again, very, very positive outlook here for the rest of the year, or so far into the year, and then going into the rest of this tournament for the Huskers.
I've been impressed. I honestly had lower expectations. And again, we're not beating great teams, but you're right. We look good. Like, we look competent. It looks like we can scale up to our opponents. We can scale, and we have scaled down to our opponents as well. But it feels like a game plan that we could go 500 in the Big Ten and be a tournament team. I mean, we're not going to crack a top 12 seed by any means, but I feel all right.
Yeah, Arcesian's been the real key to this team because all those you need 1 more score because Bryce is your main one. You need 1 more score to get the shine off of him and have people go defend other players because this team, I always going the year I thought was going to be a damn good defensive team. I just didn't know where your scoring was going to come from.
Yep.
Well, now you have him, and then you always get your chip in from Buke and Gel can sometimes get you something. Morgan last night. Like, you used to have some guys that's all you need, just those guys chip in. Then you need Bryce and Connor to go off. So I think it's a really solid team. I think what's going to hurt them, though, is say they make a tournament game, or all year round is going to kill this team is they do have terrible scoring droughts.
Yeah,
if Bryce and Arcesian aren't doing anything, they are kind of screwed.
we can go 4 minutes without putting it in a bucket.
Oh, yeah, easily. And when Mia's in, you're playing 4-on-5 on offense. He doesn't do anything on offense, but But yeah, tonight's game I read does count as a true road game. So here you go. Get those
There we go.
road woes going.
Quad 3 road win tonight. That's the goal.
It's gonna be rocking. What is it? 9:30 tip?
Something like that.
It's late. I think it's 9:30. It's the last one. I think it's approximate. It just follows, the previous game, and we're the last one tonight.
Yep.
So it's 5-hour difference between here and Hawaii, but our time it's going to start late. Dak's got to take some caffeine here to stay up for it.
I'll try to watch it all. We'll see. You've got yourself a big game though, Hunter, coming up here.
Yeah, it's
Saints,
going on right
Packers.
now.
Oh, that's already going.
Yep, touchdown Packers just as we speak. 7
Not
minutes.
Josh
What?
Jacobs.
No
Right?
way. No way.
Who scored?
Wicks.
Oh, good.
I saw the other day that the Saints are still in the hunt technically for the
Just 'cause the
playoffs.
NFC
They're
South
not
is so
technically
bad.
out yet.
Is it Rat Dog tonight? Or go back to Hayner.
It's Rat Dog, baby. It's Rat
Oh
Dog.
yeah.
He said he doesn't care about the cold weather. It doesn't affect him.
He's honestly not like awful. Hayner is just the worst quarterback I've ever saw in my life. Rattler is at least competent.
Just
Which
'cause he went to
I did
OU.
not. Huh?
Just because
No,
he went to OU.
I mean, you've watched. Yeah, he's not awful.
He's not awful.
I don't know how he was not great at Oklahoma.
At least you met him at the bar though the night before the game.
We did. True story right there. And then Satterfield changed him at South Carolina.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week after the bowl game. See if we can finish the year hot. Don't really know what that feels like. So
Do you hang a banner?
I'm not going. So I think that gives us a chance to win.
Do we hang a banner? Yes.
Yes, that's what we do in Yankee Stadium. Good luck, Dak, to your Sooners against the Navy midshipmen.
It'll be a great one.
All right. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Go Big Red.
Merry Christmas, GBR.
Go Big Red. Merry Christmas.